somebody who's been very close to all of those is the CEO of Whistleblowers UK. Delighted. She read a great article in the Telegraph at the weekend. Georgina Halford-Hall. Georgina, welcome to Talk Drive. How are you?
I'm very well. Nice to see you again, Jeremy. It's been too long.
Oh, bless you. I'll start with Southport, but I also want to talk about... I don't call them grooming gangs. I call them rape gangs. The reason... I mean... Yesterday was extraordinary, and I don't pretend to be any more in the know than anybody else, but when you sit here every day, you tend to glean quite a lot. I said it already, I don't want to repeat myself, but our Prime Minister didn't give out information that he knew about terrorist links because he said that would prejudice the case. He kept quiet. His deputy accused Nigel Farage of fake news online. She also knew the truth. Yeah. The riots happened. He politicised them by saying everybody's far right. People were arrested, far right, very quickly, by the way, quite rightly, but people writing stuff were put in prison. Turns out the guy was a terrorist. The accusation to Starmer would be, you've labelled everybody and prejudiced their cases, but you won't do it to a 17-year-old who murdered 3 innocent girls. And now you came out with this ridiculous analogy today that I'm going to make it illegal for 17-year-olds to get knives. That's not the issue here. There's been a cover-up, hasn't there?
I think there is a cover-up, and I think it's actually much worse than that because of the inconsistency in all of the explanations that the public are given from the government, be it the Prime Minister or anybody. None of it stands up to scrutiny. And to sort of plagiarise a popular movie, the public can handle the truth. And if you give the public the truth, then we're going to avoid all of the animosity and the rioting and the reaction by the public to what has been a never-ending list of serious crimes against children. And when you call them rape gangs, I actually call them paedophile rape gangs, and so does my colleague Jane Senior, because that's what these people really are. Now, this Rudakubana chap was quite clearly a very troubled young man, and no matter what happened, he was always going to jail. So why not just tell the public the truth and let them make a decision based on the truth?
What happened was they released a photograph of an 8-year-old boy and said that he'd come from Wales. So I'll put the next thing to you. You're the CEO of Whistleblowers UK. I fervently believe that the reason Starmer's in trouble is because the reason, I used that twice in one way, that he didn't want to release his information is he knew that people would say it's an illegal migrant and he would have to face up to the accusation that I'm afraid a lot of illegal migrants are committing crimes. If he'd been honest, you're right, the situation would have been diffused, but it suited him politically, which worries me when politicians... I mean, these 3 young girls lost their lives. He could stand up and he could go, Georgina, the far-right are thugs. Yes, they are. But one woman was put in jail for 15 months for writing something online that wasn't it wasn't good to read, and she needed education. But she didn't get... She got 15 months in prison. So what? One rule for Axel Rudakubana and another for the rest of us. I don't understand that these politicians don't seem to get that people are not going to keep asking questions because it all seems a bit dodgy.
No, well, I think dodgy is an understatement. Actually,
I'm trying to be balanced, love.
You are trying to be balanced, but I'm going to say as it is, as you know I will. This is injustice. It's injustice to those children who lost their lives. It's injustice to those parents who suffer and all of the other children and parents. And it's anticipated there's over 500,000 children in the UK who've been the victims of these paedophile rape gangs. But then again, there's people like myself and my colleagues who've all been labelled as far right by the Prime Minister, and I'm really looking forward to an apology or an explanation for this, because all we've done is we've spoken up for and supported the families, the children, the victims, the whistleblowers, including police officers who've been desperate to speak up about what's going on behind the scenes. And that's why we're still campaigning for our office of the whistleblower. And it's been taken up by members of his own party, but even they are afraid to speak up on their own.
But why? Why? We're afraid to speak up? Why?
Because of the party line, Jeremy. This is It's gone through all political parties. We saw it with the Conservatives.
You've been labelled far right because you're trying to push the case for victims. Why does this government seem to make excuses for perpetrators of crime and take advantage and do bugger all for people who are the victims? I don't understand the theory in any which way at all. I really don't.
It's not one. Sorry, Jeremy. It's just not one government. Promise after promise has been made to victims and to whistleblowers about how they will be treated differently. And we've got the duty of candour law coming in. This is not a good advertisement for how this government sees candour working and telling the truth. Back to what I'm saying, we need an office of the whistleblower. We need a champion for whistleblowers, a place where people like the parents and like these teachers, like these police officers who are not social workers, could raise concerns about young men like Rudakubana, and all about the people they witness abusing or potentially abusing children because they are not being supported in their workplaces.
Well, I agree with that. The other thing that turned my stomach massively when, Starmageddon did his moral speech to the nation yesterday, however dreary it was he made this big thing about, I'm going to protect our children. Well, if you're going to protect your children, allow that national inquiry. I'll tell you what I think, and you're going to give me a job when I say this. I am utterly convinced that the paedophile rape gang scandal goes higher and deeper than any of us can possibly imagine, because I don't care what your politics are, and I said this as a father of 6. If I was looking at this country, I said it last week, if I was standing one of my mates in a foreign country and looking at Great Britain and I thought, so let me get this absolutely right. In the last year, the head of the British Christian Church has had to resign, right, for hiding paedophiles. The Voice, the man that announced the Queen's death, one of the most revered news anchors in the world, he and his pedo mates who look at disgusting, vile images of kids, has got a suspended sentence because it might upset him and he might be insecure in prison. And on top of that, the establishment, and I really believe that, has been hiding for years that kids 6, 7, 8 are being raped, whether it's by people from other countries or this country. It needs looking at, and that's why organisations like yours are so important. But honestly, I think Starmer is in real trouble. I think a lot of it is the Muslim vote in certain Labour constituencies. I fervently believe that. I do.
Well, as you know, I stand politically neutral on all of this, Jeremy, and I don't care which colour it is, but somebody has really got to get a grip of this because we cannot have successive generations of children being literally sacrificed for political careers or public careers, as you were talking about the BBC. All of our organisations, including mine, has got to take responsibility. We've got to speak out. We've got to protect those who are most vulnerable. And we put that duty on our public servants and we expect them to do it. And when they do, we penalise them. We throw them into employment tribunals. One person this week was presented with a potential bill of £350,000 plus VAT, so they could take a case to the employment tribunal, for which they're not going to get anything like that in compensation. And still nobody is going to investigate the wrongdoing that they are raising. And again, that's to do with sexual crimes. We have got to stop being bonkers about this in this country, and we've got to start telling it is as it is. And where people like the former Archbishop have, hid behind their dog collar for all of these years, along with police officers, as in the report in Operation Amazon, where they have between 40 and 60 senior police officers who failed in their duty to protect children were allowed to retire, allowed to get their pensions. Well, the rest of us are being called far right for calling out what is blatantly inequality in our system. I'd like to put the great back in our country, and I'd like our politicians to do exactly that for us.
But then you're not political. You can't honestly. Well, all right, but you can answer this. I don't believe that everything Donald Trump has said and done is right, but when I listened to him speak the other day where he put the American people first, I got bloody goosebumps. We're not going to anything like here because we haven't got conviction politicians. We've got career politicians who follow the lead of whoever's in the job in case they could somehow get it. Donald Trump didn't give a toss, and the majority of America said, yeah, you're right, it's time to strike back, and I think that's a lesson. I really do.
It is, when you're right, and you're absolutely right in that. Let's face it, the only reason we're talking, the only reason the Telegraph wanted my articles is because of a foreign politician, of Elon Musk. And he has been vilified. What happened to Elon happens to every single whistleblower who stands up in this country, whether it's about the post office or child abuse. It doesn't matter. The first thing we do is we turn the spotlight on them and we question and criticise them. Nobody's perfect. Crikey, I'm not. I've got lots of things I'd say I'm not perfect in. But the one thing I'll say is I'll stand up for anybody who's standing up for injustice around children. And if that means it's Trump, if it means it's Elon Musk, I don't care. I would support that part of what they're doing because it's actually made a difference.
Do you believe, just to finish, there will be a national inquiry into the paedophile rape gangs? Yes or no? Do you think they'll come under pressure to do that? They've announced one for Southport.
I think they will. And I also think, as I said, I'm going to end on, we need an office of the whistleblower because all of these inquiries take too long. We could have an office of the whistleblower tomorrow. We could be stopping abuse that's happening now, not talking about abuse that's happened in the past.
In total awe of you, madam. I think you do an amazing job and you help so many people. Georgina Halford-Hall, thank you so much indeed for being on Talk Drive.